So the first thing I wanted to do was just to run through some basic definitions and terms, because one of the things that I've realized over the last few years working with social entrepreneurs is that every single person has a different interpretation of social enterprise and social business and social investment from everyone else. This is one of the most jargon-filled fields there is. So let's just define some of our key terms for the purposes of this series. Ashoka defines social enterprise very, very broadly indeed. So to be an Ashoka Fellow, you have to be somebody who has an entrepreneurial method for tackling a social problem in a new way. And that can cover a whole spectrum of different models. So there are not-for-profits. In fact, most of the fellows in the Ashoka network are not-for-profits that have a highly innovative solution to tackling a social problem. There are others who define social enterprise as being a business, so a business that sells goods and services but in the support of a social mission. And in that definition, social business is actually a subset of social enterprise, and that's kind of the way that we're going to be using it in the course of this series. So social enterprise is really the broad cluster of solutions to tackling social problems, as long as they're innovative and entrepreneurial in how they do that. And a social business is a particular kind of social enterprise for the purpose of this course at least, which is really around having a business model that sells to customers and potentially therefore has the ability to raise profit and generate financial return. And then social investment, again, is a term which is very, very broadly used. So we need to be able to narrow that down and think more specifically and concretely about different ways of raising finance. And the way that I would like to kind of illustrate the field of social investment is by through drawing a diagram, just to demonstrate. So if you think about the two different motivations that an investor might have for giving money to a social enterprise, they basically fall into two camps. There is those who are doing so predominantly for social impact. In other words, they want to see positive social outcomes coming out of that. And there's also those who want to see financial return. So if you draw the universe of different potential motivations around investment into social enterprises, you have on the one hand this circle here, which represents the social investors who are predominantly looking there for social return. And on the other hand, there are those who are looking predominantly for financial return. So I've drawn these circles as overlapping, and the reason for that is because at one end of the spectrum are individuals or foundations or funds that only care about social impact. They only care about how you're going to be benefiting the lives of the beneficiaries that you serve. That basically is the universe of philanthropy and donations. On the other end of the spectrum are investors who really predominantly care about financial return. So this would be commercial investors, and really what they're looking for is their money back times a multiple or with an interest rate or whatever form of financial return they're looking for. And then the universe of social investment is that peculiar group that kind of sits in the middle. So they're both social and they're financial. They're looking for social impact, and clearly they need to see what benefit you have for the beneficiaries and the customers that you serve. And they'll be interested in metrics such as employment, cost savings to the state, financial literacy, education, empowerment, whatever topic is of interest. But they're also looking for their money back as well. And so that's the kind of universe that we're speaking about when we're talking about social investment. So I'm going to define social finance as very broadly the entire spectrum of money that is looking to create social impact, and social investment as a subset of that, which is that universe of investors who do care about social impact but also want to see financial return. And then commercial investors, that's simply the broader and much wider range of universe of investors that are out there just looking for financial return. If we focus only on social investors, i.e. those who care about both social impact and financial return, even within that group you can draw a spectrum. So there'll be, on the one hand, those kinds of investors that are looking for high financial return combined with high social impact. And we can probably call them finance-first investors. At the same time, at the other end of the spectrum are individuals or foundations or funds that are looking predominantly for social impact, but they do need to have their money back. And for them, the return can be as low as 0%, i.e. just your money back, but at least they need to get that money back in order to be able to recycle it or to spend it on future causes and so on. So within that universe of social investment, we also have a series of subcategories of different kinds of investors with different motivations. If you're looking at the predominantly finance-first investors, there's a wide range of funds that are out there that are investing in asset classes that have the potential to generate both significant financial return and very high social impact. Some of those areas might be areas such as clean tech, for example, green investments, renewable energy, affordable housing, microfinance in certain cases can achieve that. At the other end of the spectrum, which is predominantly aimed at social impact, you're much more in a realm that's closer to philanthropy. And there you're really talking about investors who are probably predominantly donors and grant makers, but who are experimenting with making an investment rather than a grant because they see this as a highly leveraged way of utilizing their money and making it go round several times and generating more returns that way. So that's the field of venture philanthropy. Those are the kinds of investors who are really utilizing investment as a really efficient way of doing their philanthropic mission. It's very, very important if you're a social entrepreneur looking to raise investment to understand where on this spectrum of investors your enterprise sits in order to appeal to the right kind of money. So for example, if you are a clean tech company that has an innovation that perhaps can make a transformative difference to energy efficiency or to reducing carbon emissions, and it's a very commercializable model, you're lucky enough to be in that part of the spectrum which is both social impact and finance and high financial return. And there are certain consequences that flow from that in terms of what you'll be able to do. For a start, it means that the amount of money that you'll be able to raise may be significantly more than that which you would be able to raise if you were predominantly only a modest return social enterprise. So for certain kinds of companies that qualify, and I'm thinking here about examples, for example, in mobile tech or in software or in clean energy, it is possible with the right kind of proposition to be able to raise millions of dollars, potentially tens of millions of dollars for that kind of investment. And that's where the bulk of the money that is in social investment is currently concentrated. And the kinds of investors that you'll be speaking to, if you are that kind of enterprise, would be social impact funds of various kinds. And there are many that are out there and that are springing up. If, on the other hand, you're the kind of enterprise that doesn't have the potential to offer a massive financial return, but perhaps you might be able to offer a return which is around 0%, i.e. your money back, or somewhere up to 5% per annum, then you're going to be appealing to a different kind of investor. You're going to be appealing to those investors who are going to be social first. And as I mentioned, those are predominantly individuals, high net worths, and foundations that are experimenting in this space. That universe of investors is significantly smaller than those that are out there on the commercial side. So I think it's probably going to be much harder to raise several $1 million if you're looking for that kind of investment. $1 or $2 million may be the maximum upper limit on what is possible with the kind of ventures that can only offer a modest return. And it will be a different kind of individual, it'll be a different kind of investor that you'll be speaking to if you are that kind of enterprise. There, in that universe, you're speaking much more to predominantly high net worth individuals who are already philanthropists, or a handful of foundations that are forward thinking and beginning to move into this space. So just to summarize, you have to decide, if you are an entrepreneur looking to raise finance, where do you think you sit on this spectrum? Are you going to be able to offer high financial returns? Will there be significant exit options for the people who invest in your business? In other words, would they be, if they were to buy a share in your business, would they be able to sell that at some future stage to perhaps a large corporation or to some other kind of potential buyer out there? Or is this predominantly a way of enlarging the universe of donors that you currently have access to, and to do that? And so the spectrum of social investment is going to be very, very important for working out where you sit in this space.